Good morning, happy Friday. Welcome to the Pitch Right Chronicles. I am Uncle Taz here at Robino, and this time it's Donald that's off. But one guy that is not off and back on track is Max Fried, who had a phenomenal start after his welcome. Thanks for the welcome back, John. But after his kind of tough outing against the Dodgers, to have a bounce back like that, and also after the loss to secure 8 out of 9 series wins. Max Fried, I think, has just been everything is advertised for this team. But the one stat that I saw on the TV yesterday that was really impressive was his stats after a Yankee loss, where he is 6-0 going into the game. A .066 ERA is absolutely. I mean, you talk about that stopper you want on the mound to get everything right back on track. That's been Max Fried since the jump of the season. Rob, what's left to say about what his impact has been to this pitching staff?
Well, first of all, welcome back. It's good to see you, Tat. It's good to see everything's going well. But yeah, I'm thrilled about Max Fried. One bad start against a really good team like the Dodgers, you're allowed hiccups. If he had a perfect start every single time out, it wouldn't be realistic. He'd get tested, and we would have a big problem on our hands probably. But he bounced back in a big way against a good team. Cleveland's a playoff contender, obviously ALCS last year, and they've got a good lineup. Max Fried went out there and just whatever he did wrong in that Dodger game, he did right in this game. So a good bounce back. You said he's been the stopper, and because of his pitching and some timely hitting late in the game, we got ourselves a series win. So can't ask for much more than that. He's been exactly what they needed and more. Let's be honest. I don't think anyone expected his ERA to be where it is. If it was a point higher, that'd still be very, very good. So, I'm sorry, what he's been for this team has been nothing short of incredible. He's meant everything because without him, it would be a one-man or maybe a two-man rotation, and he's been out freaking standing. He's been the ace when we lost our ace, and you couldn't have asked much more from him. So huge shout out to Max Fried for his performance last night, and a huge shout out to Rodon for his performance in Game 1, because those two have been yin and yang this season as the 1-2 in this rotation.
Yeah, and you know what? You also have to give it to Schmidt as well, because he had a really tough first inning, and after that, he kind of did settle in and lock it down. Just the offense just never got going. Every time they were creating traffic, we had the double plays and just all these rally killers. So the pitching in this series really did, they showed up. It was just that middle game for Schmidt where just the bats went just too quiet, and just never got that big impact hit. And those are the things that you want to see, is that even if they don't have their best stuff, just keep the team in the game and just hope that the bats will come through. With the exception of the middle game, like I just said, the bats were coming through. Bellinger was another one who had he had a really good series on defense and with the bat. Same thing with Jazz. Jazz was another one that really, it was good. It's good to see him back into the fold. So the only critique really of the series was probably Volpe's defense. Just really having some hiccups, which is alarming, because when you're having to struggle with the bat, you could usually sense that they'll come out of it fairly quick enough, because once the defense gets affected by poor offense, that's usually when he needs a day off, and I think that's really what he needs, because he does play every day. They do not let him sit. They do not let him catch his breath. And that's something that I think in this series with the Red Sox, as troubling as tough as their season has been, we all know that this is not going to be an easy series. I don't underestimate or try to shortchange the Red Sox, even with the games back that they are in the standings. This is usually a team that'll come into our stadium and they'll give us a run for our money, and it's going to be a tight series. But Volpe definitely, I think, just needs a day off. Put Peraza in there for a game. Just let him just take a breath. I don't want to say that he can't do it, or he's completely fallen off because the stats don't say that. But I think Volpe at this point just needs to a day to catch his breath. What do you think?
Yeah, statistically, he's been fine. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone complaining about his offensive stat line, they're looking for stuff to complain about. But we can't excuse that play last night that almost blew the game. Let's call it
Yeah.
what it is. Obviously, we'll get to that when we get to our awards because it was a pretty important moment that it gave us all flashbacks to the World Series, and it's something that you don't want to get flashbacks to because we lost, and we lost in a pretty embarrassing fashion. So. Offensively, he's been just fine. If you're trying to complain about his numbers on offense, and again, you're just looking for things to be mad about. But defensively, that's supposed to be where he's his strongest, and he wasn't good. Last night, he was not good. And I know game two, he along with a bunch of others offensively just didn't get the job done, but he had two big double plays. So it kind of like circled in on him. The bullseye was on him, and Lou and all of his haters will gang up on the one player. I still don't understand the forced hate for the guy. But yeah, last night, and in game two just was not good. And we're going to be completely honest here on this channel. That's one thing we always do. When we got to call out a player, we're going to call out a player. We're not going to go through hoops to try to defend them for no reason if he can't be defended. And Anthony Volpe can't be defended for his performance last night. And really in this series overall, he just was not. Game one, he was okay, but game 2 and 3 was just rough. Really, really bad. So I think give him a day, put Peraza at short, DJ at second, Jazz at third. I still don't like Jazz at third. And just roll with that for a game. And give Volpe a day off his feet because everyone can use it. I know he's young, but you do it with Dominguez all the time. You can do it with Volpe. Just let him get a day. Just relax, and hopefully he comes back better in the second game. But I would certainly give him a day off at some point in this series.
Yeah, it's the other one that I want to bring attention to is Grisham, and his numbers lately in the leadoff spot, but we cannot go any further without saying what's up to everybody in the chat. I missed you all. What is going on? We got Dev hanging out with us, John the Beagle Dad, CT Cards, Lou, Cold Italian Pizza, Damian Serrano. How have things been? We have also Jonathan at 6:24, bright and early, but sorry, John. Dev beat you for the early bird award, 4:32 a.m. Jesus Christ. And Ken is always welcome. Appreciate everybody. And
Dev, get some sleep, man. I'm sorry, Tats, but Dev, this is like the 5th time in the last 2 weeks that we appreciate the comment. We put an early bird award out there for you guys, but you take a nap.
Take it to the next level.
Go to get some sleep, my dude. My God.
But Dev, it's all fun. Stephen B, what's going on? But I don't know what's going on with Grisham, but his leadoff numbers are starting to tail off a little bit, and he's starting to level out. Is it just a stretch of the season where he's just kind of struggling a little bit, or do you keep him in the leadoff spot and hope he figures it out, or do you just make the adjustments and move him around in the lineup? Especially because you can get away with maybe giving him, him also, a little breather. He's been, and I don't want to really get too hard on him because he's been a key contributor to the success this season. So I don't want to discredit what he's been able to do. But it just seems like he's almost like that automatic out now in the leadoff, and they're supposed to be the table setter, and he's not.
Well, it goes back to our conversations a few weeks ago that you can't get too. I know now it's June, so it's no longer early season, but you can't get too worked up about what a guy's doing in April and May. Because if you look at his numbers over the last 30 games, he's been kind of black. Like he's been kind of mediocre. If it wasn't for some of the home runs, and a lot of them were timely home runs, so it's kind of why he gets a pass, and deservedly so. But if you look at his last 15, he's hitting just 179, 281 on base, 268 slug. So the power's dropped. And I'll tell you this: if that was Anthony Volpe that was putting up those numbers, there'd be calls for his job. So um, I think you at this point you kind of go back to the original plan, which was to get Dominguez as much at bats as possible.
Yes.
Let Dominguez play left, put Bellinger in center, and keep Judge in right, and then you can use that DH spot however you want it, whether it's Rice or Goldschmidt. I still think they should think about platooning Rice and Goldschmidt against righties, but that might be what you have to do because Trent Grisham, we knew this was coming. I didn't think it would be this much of a fall off, but you knew he wasn't going to hit like this from the start to the finish of the season. He's never been that player, and he was off to such a good start the year. Like when he does eventually level out, it's going to be rough. And we've hit that point over the last basically month's worth of games for him, but specifically over the last couple of weeks, he's just been bad offensively. And I think you kind of give him a break as well, and use this as an opportunity to get Dominguez as many at bats and have Grisham off your bench, and he comes up very big off the bench, whether it's defensively or offensively. So I think that strengthens out your team, keeps you in the game later, and it gives you a chance to get Dominguez as many at bats as possible. So I'd get him out of the leadoff spot. I didn't want him there, honestly. I never really did. I know it worked for a little bit, but just
Well, that's what happens. It works
yeah.
until it doesn't work.
It works until it doesn't work, right? But yeah, I think you sit him, play Dominguez as much as possible, and then like Volpe, you can use a day off or two, and you can get him back in the lineup eventually. But yeah, his numbers have plummeted, and I think now's the time you get him a day off.
Yeah, it's and I see what Lou's saying. Trading while its value is high, but it was too early in the season. That's not an option till you got another month to figure that out. And it's good as I know in the next couple of weeks the trade talks are going to start heating up. As far as who has value, what value on other teams can we use? We're going to get into all that as the weeks go on, of course, but. I just think it's time either Goldschmidt or Bellinger should be in that leadoff spot and just rotate between those two. Whether depending on the pitching matchups and what the strengths are to get the lineup proper. But I think it's time for them to just not make some serious adjustments. But I think it's we're enough into the season to give a guy like Volpe a day off. Just make little tweaks. You don't think it too not too much exaggerated. But you're also seeing a more comfortable Dominguez in left field, where if you look at his body language, you can see like when the ball's hit to him, he doesn't have that oh shit look. He's starting to feel a lot more confident, reading the ball off the bat a lot better. He's not scrambling. So that's something where that is attributed to constant play and getting the opportunities that we said if this is going to be your left fielder, he's got to be treated the same as Volpe did, which is getting just leave him there, and let him figure it out. We came into the season, we've gone over this, where we had very low expectations of what was going to happen, especially after Heel and Cole went down. The loss of Soto, it's like the expectations were lowered this season. And with the emergence of the hot start from Grisham, Volpe putting together more consistency, even if they're not eye-popping numbers. Also, the pitching staff really pulling the weight of the losses that they had. Yeah, the expectations are shifting a little bit. So that's why I'm just saying just small little tweaks to everything. You don't have to make a major overhaul of what we're going to do forward.
And trading Grisham in April would have made no sense because he was one of like maybe three players that were hitting consistently. It was him, Judge, and Rice really that were.
Yeah, they were trading homers left and right.
Right. So if you would have traded him while his value was at its highest, you would have lost a third of your offense. So I mean, Sorry, Lou. I disagree with that unless you were talking about Volpe. I don't know who you were talking about trading, but if it was Grisham, that wouldn't have made sense. You do that in July if you have another outfielder that can take his role, but let's be honest, is Everson Pereira going to come up and hit a 750 OPS off the bench and play great defense in all three outfield spots? I don't know. I think Pereira is really good. He's having a good year in AAA. I'm just not sure if the Yankees are ready for him to be that guy. So trading Grisham would have to be trade of strength for strength. Hey, we have an extra outfielder. A team has an extra third baseman or something like that. Maybe you go that route, but trading Grisham wouldn't have made no sense in the first 2 months of the season because you would have lost most of your offense. Luckily now you've got more guys hitting. Goldschmidt against lefties has been outstanding. We mentioned Rice, we mentioned Grisham, but obviously Judge. Volpe's been fine. Wells is kind of hit or miss at times. Bellinger's been a lot better. So, and you just got Jazz back, and he had a great series. So, the offense has more firepower around it to where it doesn't have to be all on Grisham. But that's exactly why you can use the slump he's in to get him a day off or two, and just play Dominguez. Just play him. You have nothing to lose now because Grisham's no longer hitting home runs left and right. So now you can get Dominguez his 4 or 5 starts a week. If you're playing 6 games a week, Dominguez should be starting at least 4 of them. And you can figure out when to get Grisham some at-bats. And there will be opportunities to get him at-bats. And you go that route. But Grisham has, like Doran's saying, 1,000% come back down to earth. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's baseball. He was never that hitter. The hitter he was for the first month and a half, 2 months, was never the hitter he was throughout his entire career. So you knew it was coming. It just happened like at the snap of a finger. So, again, it's nothing. It's just baseball. That's how baseball is. It happens to the best players in the world. So I wouldn't be surprised if tonight Grisham starts and hits a home run and we're like, well, we're freaking idiots. So, so that's just how it's been.
Doing to us.
Right. Yeah, that's happened to us plenty of times over the years. It would not shock me one bit. But if you wanted to get him a day off as well as Volpe, you have nothing to lose right now by sitting the two of them just for a game or two and just get them off their feet. Sometimes a player needs it. I know people don't want to hear that. They're getting paid millions of dollars, play every day. Sometimes, no matter what, you need a day off your feet, and it just kind of hit that reset button. That's really all it comes down to sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why it's just a day. When I say he's got to be benched for a series, but just give him a day to just kind of maybe you see how he does today against the Red Sox. We're gonna get into that series a little bit before we sign off today. Don't worry about that because a weekend rivalry series is always fun, especially because you don't have to deal. Most people don't have to worry about work and missing a pitch. So it's all, the energy is always up for these series. So maybe he brings in some energy and has a good game today, and everything we talked about with him needing a day off just goes right out the window. And it was just a rough series for him. But to think Grisham was going to do this, was going to sustain this, he might have another month like this in August. He might go on a run like that again. Maybe early September, maybe not at all. But anybody that thought that Grisham was going to be able to do that and be sustainable like that all year long, you need to reevaluate what your opinions are on baseball and how you look at it. Because it's a game of failures, and that's where Grisham is right now. He's not holding it up for the leadoff spot. The 6th to 7th spot in the lineup, maybe he just gets a little more comfortable. But I'd rather see either Goldschmidt or Bellinger in the leadoff spot, especially for this series, because we need first inning production to get our pitching staff at ease against their offense.
It's just too much lineup changing in general. I mean, I don't think the Yankees have had the same lineup in back-to-back games at all this season, or at least if it was early on. Because remember Game 1, Wells homers in the third pitch because you called it, and then he wasn't leading off the next day. And then there was that week or so where Ben Rice was doing it in the leadoff spot. And it's Goldschmidt, then it's Grisham, then sometimes it's Bellinger. Like I think it was Bellinger for a game. I mean, it's just too much changing in the lineup. I mean, last night Judge was batting third. Sometimes he's batting second. So, like, just think that you need to go with a consistent lineup, and then if it gets hot, and you keep it that way. So I don't think that helps anybody. The only player it doesn't seem to affect is Aaron Judge, because he can hit ninth. He will never hit ninth, but it doesn't matter where he's hitting. He's going to destroy the ball. But everybody else, knowing that one day you're going to be batting first, and the next day you might not be playing at all, and then if you do play the next game, you're going to be batting like fifth. It's like it doesn't help you. So I just like Volpe. Like sometimes he's batting fifth, and he's batting sixth. He needs to stay in the bottom of the order. Last night he was batting sixth. It's not good there, and I don't know why Aaron Boone fails to see it when everyone else can see it. But yeah, just the lineup changing in general is not good. It doesn't help a team. Luckily, our offense has still been one of the best in baseball, despite the last couple of series haven't been the greatest, but they've still found a way to win most of the games in these last like 4 series. So, except for the Dodger one, I just think you need to find a more consistent lineup, and that you can roll with. But I don't know, try Wells again. I know he's not hitting this year, but it was there in the spring. It was there in the first game of the season. I don't know why they went away from it. It was working with Ben Rice, hitting in front of Judge. That seemed to be beneficial for everybody. And go with that. But if you want to go with Goldschmidt against lefties, that's fine. But you're going to see more righties than lefties. So go with Ben Rice at the leadoff spot again, and have Grisham come off the bench. Now with Jazz back, you should be able to have Grisham off the bench and Dominguez playing every day. And you can have Volpe at the bottom of the order, and go with the lineup that had Rice, Judge, Belly, Goldschmidt, and Jazz in the 5 spot. You can go Dominguez 6, Volpe 7th, and there you go. Wells 8th, or maybe Wells, Volpe. However you want to line up that bottom 3, go out whatever you want to do, Aaron Boone. But now that you got Jazz back and you're healthier, and eventually Stanton could be at some point in the next couple of weeks, roll with your best lineup.
Yeah, and not that I'm not kicking the door down for him to be in the starting lineup, but even if LeMahieu's in that mix, it's just now that we're getting some of the bats healthy, productivity aside, it does deepen the lineup where we need it to be deepened. Where the bottom of the order doesn't have to be automatic outs. You can have your 7, 8, 9 be a Wells, Volpe, LeMahieu type, bottom, and set it up for Goldschmidt, Judge, and Belly in the top of the order, and have the the middle of the lineup with no scrubs either. I don't think there's anybody here that you're looking, you're going, them being in the lineup is an automatic. It's not an automatic out. They are putting some good at bats together. I just want to rewind real quick for that point. You're going against an ace like Yamamoto in the Dodger series. To have him at almost 100 pitches in 4 innings. That's what a deep lineup and deep at bats can get you, and it gets you into the bullpen at the end of a series where even with the arms they're able to throw out there, you get into the bullpen that early. Those should be winnable. It just makes them more of a winnable game. It's not so much a throwaway because their ace just shut down your entire lineup.
Yeah, the lineup was fine against Yamamoto, and usually the lineup, it sound like we're nitpicking here, but the lineup has more times than not been fine.
Yes.
I know going back to really the Colorado series, outside of that one game, the offense has been not as good, but they have put up decent, like last night they could have scored a lot more than 4. They should have scored at least a run in the second game, but scoring 4 runs or 3 runs in the first game, your pitching was great, so that's all you needed. And then last night they needed 4. They only needed 1 last night, and they scored 4. So you don't need to score 10 every night to be considered a good offense. We had the big game against the 2 of our 3 games against the Dodgers. The offense was okay.
It was competitive.
Right. They were competitive in the first game, and then they were fine in the third game. The Angels, they swept them, so they did what they had to do. And if you look at that Texas series, again, they did what they had to do. So I don't it just kind of it's nitpicking here because the
Yeah.
offense is still fine and it's going to get better now with Jazz back and eventually Stanton. So I just think when now's the time to kind of figure out what the top three and like the bottom three are going to be, and then when you get Stanton back is when you can kind of play around with the middle of the order. And then once you have a full squad, that's where Aaron Boone can finally get a consistent lineup. So it seems like for the first 2 months now, he's been tinkering with things, trying to figure out who's going to play where when we get Giancarlo back. And that's going to be an experience for him. But I don't like Volpe hitting in the middle of the order. I don't like Grisham leading off. Those are only two changes I would consider making. And just go back to Rice at the top of the order or go back to what Wells was doing because it was working.
Yeah, it's weird that they just how quick after one game they got away from Wells as a leadoff, and it seems like such a minimal issue that a lot of people are complaining about, but your leadoff hitter, it's just basic baseball. They're supposed to get. Yeah, those are the guys you want on base for the heart of your order. And when that guy's not getting on, it just throws everything to a tailspin to me. It just sets a bad tone for the game when your leadoff hitter just can't get on base. It just sets a bad precedent, and it puts a lot of pressure on your second and third hitters. So I just don't see where it's just not Grisham anymore. I think it's got to. That's why I keep saying I'd rather Rice is not a bad idea either. Put him back in the leadoff spot. But you need somebody that is going to give you the most confidence to get on in front of Judge.
It's really what it comes down to is getting guys on base before Judge. Doran, I don't think that was a report. I just think he was taking reps at second. I don't think that means he's switching to second base. He's too good at first. Why would they move him from second? We saw Aaron Judge taking reps at first base a couple of years ago, and who was kind of like, told you so. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. If you were going to move anybody to second or third base, it'd be Ben Rice, just to get him in the lineup more. By the way, that would have been easier to do in spring training and in the first couple of weeks of the season than doing it right now, because there's going to be a crunch for playing time when Stanton's back, but Goldschmidt's not moving off of first base. When Goldschmidt plays, he's your first baseman. He's too good over there to move him to second. I don't think that was a report. I think he was just showing he was taking some reps there. Posada took reps at second. He even played a game at second base. It didn't mean he was going to switch there.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that game.
And that was because he was about to retire.
Bishop bailed him out.
Yeah.
But, no, look, we're going to get to the awards in a second just to put a pin in, just to put a final point on this thing with Goldschmidt. Yeah, taking reps at second, that is like a word, like in case of emergency pull. And I know they're trying to get I know they want to get creative because Stanton's coming back. But I made this comment in the chat when I was peeking in on Wednesday's show. I'm like, they always say, when you have too many players for a position, it's a good problem to have. But it's always a good problem until you have to solve it. And the Yankees are going to have they're going to have to do some soul searching to figure out how they're going to construct these lineups day in, day out with consistency. Because you can't just have, your key guys playing half the games a week just to make sure everybody gets in at bat. I don't think that's sustainable for a successful lineup. Even if we don't agree with the order of the lineup every game, you're still seeing the same names day in, day out. So it's, that's where I think the Yankees are gonna and boom is. I think that's going to be one of his biggest managerial challenges ever.
Yeah, and again, it is still a good problem to have, but you're right. Until you have to solve it, that's a bigger question. I think he'll find ways. Again, with baseball, always finds a way to figure itself out. Whether it's a guy unfortunately getting hurt, I really don't hope that happens, of course, or a guy starts to struggle. Case in point, Trent Grisham. So, and even like I said, Goldschmidt. I know he's been more than we expected, but he has not hit righties particularly well. at least in terms of OPS. He's way below average in that category against right-handed pitchers. So that's a chance to get Ben Rice at bats against righties. And then you'll have DH Stanton, or you can DH Goldschmidt as well, or still sit Stanton and give him some time off because he needs the days off. As much as we want to see him play, he's going to need to be kept healthy. So how do you do that? You don't play him for a game or two. And that keeps the bench fresh, that keeps him fresh, and it prevents injuries. So it'll figure itself out. It always does. Baseball, sports in general is strange that way. They're not going to send down Ben Rice, Doran. Do not worry. Yeah, he's like their second best hitter behind Judge. There's no way they're doing that. So, yeah, it'll figure itself out, but you have to get Giancarlo's bat in the lineup because if Game 2 of this series and some of the games we've seen recently from this offense have told us, yeah, you need that bat in some capacity, whether it's off the bench from time to time or in the middle of the order. You need Giancarlo Stanton's bat in this lineup. So they will find ways to get him in there, and they'll find ways to get Rice's at-bats and Grisham and Dominguez. And Aaron Boone's going to have a lot of work on his hands, but it's better than saying Pablo Reyes is going to play or Jahmai Jones is going to play last year. Or Franchi Cordero, Willie Calhoun, the Fantastic Four, as NFE calls them. So, yeah, I'd much rather have a bench that consists of Rice or Goldschmidt, Grisham, Stanton, and Escara, and Peraza, or something like that, or LeMahieu even, than have a bench that consists of Pablo Reyes and Jake Bowers of the world, even though Bowers has been kind of good for Milwaukee. But you want to have a strong bench on top of having a good lineup, because then you can, on any given day, somebody good is going to have to sit, because that means somebody good is going to be starting. And that means late in the game, you can have a good bat coming off the bench in a big spot. And if it's Giancarlo Stanton, your chances of coming through in that big spot increase, because he's very good in the clutch, as is Trent Grisham. So two very clutch hitters coming off the bench at some point, you need that. Especially in the playoffs, especially in the playoff push and into the postseason. So it can only make the Yankees better by having Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, it's just the strength of the bench is going to be beneficial, and considering the last couple of years, the benches that we've had have been, you didn't want your bench players in the game. Now it's gonna have like that, the dynasty feel where, you can bring somebody in off the bench, you don't feel deflated. So it's only going to benefit the Yankees. It's just a matter of how Boone manages the lineups. I think that's where he's gonna have to really look deep inside to see how he wants to manage without really derailing everybody's momentum. And that's a huge challenge. But he's the manager. He's the skipper. We just got to cross our fingers and hope he doesn't screw it up. But we are just about a half hour in, and I know I still want to get to some of the Red Sox series, but right now it is time. I've been itching to get into these. I miss it a lot. Let's get into the award segment. Feels like forever since I've done an awards. I've been throwing a couple in the chat while I've been able to sneak in. But we did have a series, like we said in the beginning of the show. We won our 8th series out of our last 9, except, obviously to the Dodgers. But we did have a really, really competitive series. And let's start off with the MVP. My MVP, I had his Bellinger. Like I said, I thought his bat and his glove were really, he was on his game. He was looking, all-star worthy this series. So he did get the MVP for me. Rob?
I had Jazz. I just think he put together at the plate at least two wins we had. His bat was really good. He obviously had the home run in the first game, and then last night came through as well. So I think in general, Jazz has had a good series. It's good to see him back. His swing looks a lot better. I just hope that we see that more from him. We were talking about this the other day, Donald and I. I got to go with Jazz. At Bellinger, he's getting an award for me, but I got to go with Jazz.
Uh, I think there's, I don't think there's a wrong answer between those two guys. Um, and Donald had Bellinger as his MVP. But like you said, it's the other player has not been forgotten along the way. Let's get into some of the comments in the chat. Who do they think was the MVP? Jazz 5 for 11 from Ken. Yeah, Jazz. He's not uppercutting the swing. Doran says Jonathan's voting for Jazz. Sean has got Bellinger. Looks like Jazz is going to win uh, this series MVP. Good for him. I like Jazz. I think he's just such a likable guy. Very team oriented. So let's jump to low key. Donald, this is where he went with Jazz as the low key. We've already gone over his successes this series. Rob, who was your low key?
That's where I had Bellinger. Just that game alone last night was worthy of an MVP, but I just think the Jazz had the better overall series. But Bellinger last night, I think he drove in all the runs, if I'm not mistaken, or most of them. And his defense was fantastic, so he could play anywhere. Play him in left, play him in right, play him in center. He's going to get the job done. And he needed that kind of a night because his bat's been kind of like up and down. So it's good to see him get a big game. I think Bellinger deserves it. He deserved an MVP if it wasn't for Jazz.
Yeah, I had Jazz as my low key. He's come back and he's made an impact. And you don't see that from players as often as we'd like. So being he was able to come back like he didn't miss a beat, and he was struggling when he first went on the IL. He wasn't really playing well. So it also looks like that downtime to heal really did him good. So I had to give it to Jazz at that point. All right, let's get into the clutch award. Rob, who did you have as your clutch?
Tim Hill. He came through last night. He came in the bases loaded. There was one out, got the next two, and then pitched a clean inning. So, yeah, I know, Doran, don't remind me. But I got to go with Tim Hill. He was big. Leiter did not get help from the defense, but Tim Hill came in there and cleaned up the mess that was caused by the defense in that inning and kept us in that game and helped us win it. So Tim Hill gets a big shout because he's been not as good as I was hoping so far this year, but apparently I think he's gotten everybody out with I think batters are like 0 for 16 against him with the bases loaded.
0 for 14 with the bases
0 for 14, yeah, since being a Yankee. So that's pretty damn clutch in my opinion. So I want to give him the award.
Yeah, Tim Hill was mine too. Because that was such a pivotal part of the series. To get that series win was with the bases loaded. After we failed to do anything with it. But Tim Hill has just been. You can see his confidence is really coming back. He had a couple of rough outings a couple weeks ago where it was kind of looking a little shady with him coming in, but he's definitely picked up right when we needed him to. So let's see where Donald had his clutch award. His clutch was Bellinger. Obviously, with the offense he put up yesterday, 3 of the runs were from him. He was always to see the moment doesn't phase him, and that's what you need in a lineup, especially with a guy that's going to be going back to back in the lineup with Judge, somebody that's just not phased. And so I thought, clutch for Bellinger. Yeah, that's a good call, Donald. Let's get to the pitching award. Obviously, Donald has Fried. I don't know if anybody had anybody other than Fried. If you do, speak up now. You got Rob.
I had Rodon. And Rodon was great. I mean, you can't. There's no wrong answer there.
Yeah.
Like, Fried was fantastic. He bounced back. He pitched a shutout. And Rodon, I don't think that run should have been charged to him. And me and Donald were talking about that the other day. Just it didn't seem like it was fair that that run was charged to him. He was brilliant. I mean, he won that game 3-2, and Rodon went out there and threw 7, struck out 8, gave up 1 earned. I mean, he's been fantastic. And I know Fried pitched a shutout again, but I can't overlook what Rodon did in 7 innings of work. I know Fried threw 6 1 hit, no runs, but man, Rodon's been doing it like with a lot of people kind of thinking he wouldn't do it. We expected Fried to be great, not this great, but we expected him to be great. There was like no expectations on Rodon. Like people wanted him gone, and he has been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. So I want to give him the shout. It's no disrespect to Fried.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer there if you're choosing him or
No, I had my pitching award went to the starters. It's I know a lot of people were really getting on Schmidt for the runs he gave up, but it was all in the first inning. He settled in. He gave us length when we needed it. Was able to really scratch out some innings, so he didn't have to go right to the bullpen too early. And like you said, Rodon's start far exceeding expectations for the season, and Fried is just a mastermind. He was another one where it looked like he was going to be out of the game early. And the fact that this will also be explained again with Boone's award, but letting him come back out for the 6th and the way he was able to get that 1, 2, 3 laboring, going, hitting the 100 pitch mark. That's why I gave it to all 3 starters. I thought they had a phenomenal series against that team. Because Cleveland's another one. They're pretty level with us. They always they could be a pain in the ass. So the fact that they were able to really keep every game within reach. 2 of them we won. 1 we fell just short. But not that we fell short, but we got shut out. And so I gave it to all 3 starters. I thought they were great. Let's see, Donald's next award is when he's going to go with the Boy Blue Award. For Donald, I'll give him a little, "You my boy Blue." He has his Boy Blue as Fried. Rob, who was your Boy Blue?
Jazz Chisholm. Welcome back. Still think he should be playing second, but he's willingly playing third. Being a team guy, he had a big series, 5 hits in total. Less level swing, hit a homer. The swagger's back. Good to see Jazz back. I'm glad he's here. He's my boy.
Yeah, Jazz was on my top list. But I decided to kind of go a little outside the box, and I didn't want it to be all Yankees because Cleveland did put a good series together. And my Boy Blue, I gave it to Jose Ramirez. He's such an underrated player. When you hear about the top bats of the league, he really does not get the recognition for what he is. With his power, his ability to hit the ball all over, his speed on the bases, his defense. He's just a really fun player to watch. If you just take a step back and watching baseball, he's a great player that does not get enough recognition. So I wanted to make sure that while he was playing it all, against our team, that I gave him a little recognition for just the baseball player that he is. So let's see, what's the next one? Let's go with the L. All right, Rob, who was your L?
I gave it to Anthony Volpe. Again, we're going to be fair when we have to be.
Yep.
Game 2 double plays wasn't good. I think Donald and I have like the exact same L. Just spoiler alert. Yeah, he wasn't good, and that throw last night gave me just terrible flashbacks to the World Series. Devin Williams did end up getting the save. I could have given it to him if Volpe didn't have that terrible throw last night, it would have been Devin Williams. But that error from Volpe, just they can't get that throw down. I don't know what it is. The throw was wide. I know Jazz, you could argue Jazz should have caught it. Maybe Peraza gets it if a proper third baseman is there, but it wasn't a good throw. He rushed it, and you could hear somebody going 3-3-3, so it wasn't like it was on his own. They were telling him to go to third. You'd think if they're practicing it that much, that they'd get the throw down. They still can't do it. It brings back just terrible memories to what we saw last year, not just the World Series, but in general, how bad they were in the infield. Yeah, Anthony Volpe, terrible series. Just call it what it is. Just a bad series on both sides. And we got to be fair. I love the kid. Still one of my favorite players on the team. I'll wish nothing but success for him. And if he comes through tonight, if he plays, you're going to hear me talking about him on our next show. But he was rough in this series against Cleveland. And it's funny because I'm looking back at awards for like the last few series. I gave him an L against the Mets, and I gave him an MVP against the Angels. He got a boy blue against the Rockies, and now he's getting an L again. So he's kind of been up and down all over for me these last like 6 series. So he was not good.
Nah, I'm still waiting for that one series where he just really gets, some top voting. Because there has not been enough of it. For him to be in consideration for the MVP with a low key, a clutch, like give us a moment, give us something to rally behind. He has not been able to do that. That is why he got my L. And to quote Donald's comment, Volpe, 2 DPs in one game, one closely ever, throwing third, exactly the same as the World Series. Not my shortstop. So those are Donald's words.
Look at Lou being yeah, he's still my shortstop. Look at Lou being, and he's Donald's shortstop too. Let's be honest. Who's he gonna put over there? He wants an infield of Peraza, Volpe, DJ, and Jazz. I know he would prefer Peraza, but I don't think you want LeMahieu playing every day. But look at Lou being a little positive here. He can be up and down. We're coasting in our division. Lou is the second biggest hater of Anthony Volpe behind Donald, and he's even being a little positive here. Look at that. Look at maybe Lou's turning over a new leaf.
Yep. Hey, it can happen to anybody. So let's get into the Hicks Award. Donald does not have a Hicks Award. Rob, do you have a Hicks Award?
Kind of want to give it to Devin Williams, but he wasn't like end of the world bad. And we're talking about Aaron Hicks, so it's like the worst of the worst. So no, it shouldn't, Mark. Yeah, I don't have a Hicks. I can't think of anything that was like the game 2 offense, maybe. That was terrible. But yeah, I didn't have a Hicks. I couldn't think of anything that was just like that was the worst thing I've ever seen. And that's what you think about when you think of Aaron Hicks. So which that could be changed to Pablo Reyes if at the rate the season's going.
Yeah, it's my Hicks. I gave it to what you just alluded to. I gave it to the double plays. I'm stop with the every time that in the second game. Every time we were starting to get some momentum, some bullshit double play was ruining it. And I'm screaming at the TV like, just stop that. Stop doing that. Like, can't you just elevate the ball out of the infield for a change? Why don't you try doing that? They just weren't able to get anything done against these pitches. I don't think any of the pitches had a under 4 ERA, except maybe Class A. And I know he had a rough start to the season, so his ERA is elevated, but he's still Class A. You're not hitting him.
They almost got to him, actually. Of all the people, they almost got to the best one. So
you saw his face when he got he's like, glad I got out of that.
Yeah, because he got Judge. Yeah. Well, we gave him the L for that, John. So I'm not going to give him both awards, but no, I mean, you really could give everybody an L or a Hicks for that game too, because nobody came through. Judge didn't come through against Class A. Although I feel like he's immune to like negative talk at least for now because how good he's been. But Ben Rice had opportunities. He hit into double plays as well. Just everybody did not come through when we needed him to in that second game. But it was pretty magnified because it always seems to come down to Volpe. Like every time there's a big
Yeah.
spot and it's like, here's Anthony Volpe. Here's his chance to get it done. He did it against the Angels, and he did it against the I think it was not I don't remember who it was, but he did it against the Angels, that's for sure. And then maybe Texas he had a big hit, but yeah, it just seems to always come down to Anthony Volpe, and he doesn't come through more times than not. So, and you guys are right about Michael Kay. I've been saying this for a few years now. I can't stand the guy. I do not listen to him. I saw the highlight of Volpe's throw where he said it was a little wide, and that alone deserves a L because it wasn't a little wide. It was pretty freaking. That throw was wide. So yeah, I can't. There was nothing that I can give a Hicks award for, but you're spot on about that offense. Every time there was a big spot, they did not come through. But it seemed like number 11 was at the height of all of it. Somehow, it always comes down to him, which is why I want him batting lower in the order.
Yeah, that's why I gave him the L and not the Hicks, because he wasn't the only one. You know, if he was the only one throughout the series to hit a double play or cause an error, then yeah, you're in that category. But as far as the poor situational hitting with runners in scoring position, and it was a collective effort, especially in game 2. It was so highlighted. It was really frustrating, and it kind of made me lose my temper a little bit. So that gets you the Hicks Award, because I don't think any of us are finished screaming at the TV watching Hicks staring at the ball. So let's get to the final award, and that is Boone. Donald is giving him an 8. Rob, what is your what do you got for Boone?
Yeah, I went with an 8. It's not his fault the offense kept grounding into double plays. I think he made the right call letting Fried go as long as he did. I think he made the right call with Schmidt, because Clark Schmidt somehow, some way, even in a first inning where he gave up 3 runs, gives you 5 2/3, 3 runs. It just seems like no matter what happens, he's going to give you that stat line. And I think Boone had a really good series. He didn't go back to Devin Williams immediately after kind of a yip in the first game. He went to Cruz in the next game. I know Cruz gave up a run, but they weren't scoring, so it didn't really matter. I think his handling of the bullpen was fine. Bringing in Hill in that spot, knowing that Hill's got more, he's gotten everybody out in the bases loaded situation. I think he pressed all the right buttons. I could give him a 9, but I'm not. So I'm just going to give him an 8. That's still a positive score. We did lose a game.
Yeah.
I know it's not on him entirely, but yeah, I think 8's a fair number for him.
Yeah,
he got like a -20 against the Dodgers, so I think for him to go from that to an 8, it's pretty impressive.
It's a good bounce back from Boone. No, I think his bullpen management was spot on. I like that even with the 4-run lead, he didn't try to squeeze Williams into the game last night and just let the rest of the let Loizaga get the spot. Not pulling the plug early on Schmidt, because like you said, you just said 3 runs and 5 2/3. If you don't know about the first inning, you still say that's a successful outing. And just he really showed the trust in his pitching staff, so that does get him on the high grade. But no sweep. I can't give there anything higher than an 8. So that's just the way it is.
Another thing that we can bring up about the Game 2 offense is Paul Goldschmidt was just like staring at pitches. Remember that? Like in the 9th inning, he just stared at like 2 pitches right down the middle.
Yeah, I know. Like, what are you waiting for? Personal,
right? I feel like if that was another player on this roster, they'd be screaming. So, I'm just saying we got to be fair when when we need to be fair. And Paul Goldschmidt, man, that was bad. Like the whole offense in general was bad. It's like no one wanted to come through. The several double plays and just staring at bad pitches or good pitches and swinging at bad ones. But then they bounced back last night. So that's kind of what we were saying the other day. Is like we're 15 games over 500. We're 5.5 up in the division, and I still don't know what this team's identity is.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like they're one of the best offenses on paper, and statistically they are, and one of the best pitching staffs. And I don't know what they are. It's so strange to me. But you know what? That's a good thing because they're winning games despite not knowing what this team's identity is. Is it just like very good regular season team? I hope it's a very good playoff team, but I just don't know what they are. And maybe we'll figure it out by the All-Star break. But at this rate, they might be 20 games over, and I still don't know what they're going to be by the time we reach there. But it's better than the alternative. They could be 500 and sitting in the dweller basements of the freaking division. So keep winning games, man. That's all I ask.
Yeah, it's you get it to, and we'll wrap it up with the series tonight with the Red Sox. They're 9.5 out of 9.5 behind us in the standings, sitting in fourth place, and that kind of. Not that I'm the Red Sox. I don't want to say they make me nervous, but I don't think there's ever a spot in the division that either of us could be sitting in where you feel comfortable going into a series like this. Like I said, the AL East, as weird as the standings look, they could flip a switch in a heartbeat. Which is why I think it's really important to get off the series tonight on a high note, and it's going to start with the pitching. They with Warren going tonight against Bueller. Warren needs, if you talk about a pitcher that needs a bounce back outing, Warren is definitely on that list. Because his ERA skyrocketed. And I don't know how comfortable I am with Warren on the mound tonight.
Yeah, and he was so good for like 4 or 5 starts in a row. His home numbers are really good. His road numbers have been not so good, and obviously he got absolutely destroyed against the Dodgers. This is a big start for him because we know who is on the comeback trail, and Aaron Boone said it, he's working him as a starter. So if we get to a point where Voldemort is on the way back and Warren is still struggling, we know who's getting the boot. Yeah. This is a big start for him. He needs to put together a string of 2, 3, maybe, depending on how long it takes for that one to come back. Then if Warren's pitching well, then there's going to be a good problem to have. But I think this is the start. He needs to be good, because if he's bad again, then we know they're not getting. You can't take Yarbrough out of the rotation. You simply can't. Not right now.
And Warren's start tonight is going to it's going to determine whether we have a series win or a sweep. Because with Yarbrough and then closing out the series with Rodon, I'm very that gives me a lot of confidence for Saturday and Sunday games. Tonight, to me, is the question mark. I need Warren to have that. Like you said, the home numbers have been pretty good. That's why I'm glad that he's getting this next start at home, because he'll be just a little more of his comfort zone. But he's still. We don't have enough of a track record to know if he's going to be able to have those outings where he just gets embarrassed and just looks sharp again his next outing. Like we saw with Fried yesterday. He's gonna, he's the Dodgers kind of, put him to the test, and he just shrugged it off like, yeah, all right, that was just another start that didn't go my way, and right back to business. Tonight's going to determine if Warren's going to have that type of mentality. Yeah. And I urge him to sit and talk with Fried and Rodon. All right, And also Blake too, because I think Matt Blake has been really good this year again. But talk to the guys that have done it, and I think if he sits down with a conversation with Rodon and Freed, just to get for the mentality aspect of it, I think Warren can have a good outing. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know with him. Hopefully he's all right. Angelo's telling you to enjoy your breakfast.
Okay. I guess there's breakfast for when we're done.
Yeah. Why does nobody else get breakfast? Some bacon and eggs right now or something.
Yeah, right. But I know my cousin went to one of the local bakeries and was bringing some cannoli back. So.
Oh Lord, you Italian bastard!
But no, I am hoping that the series, just win the series, just keep doing that. Obviously we want to win every game. It's not realistic. Not everybody is the best uncle. Hey, nobody. There's only one Uncle Tats there, Angelo. But it's if they could just continue to. Are you at the house? Would it be funny if he's in the other room? But if they're able to just win this series, winning every game is unrealistic. It's baseball. Stupid shit happens. The ball could bounce the wrong way. So we just put your best forward. And the offense needs to wake up too, because the Red Sox pitching has been very suspect. They give up a lot of runs, but the offense can put up runs as well. So our bats also have to be on their game. Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
Yep.
Do hope that everybody does enjoy the weekend series with the Red Sox. It's always something to look forward to. The trash talk on social media. Be careful which account you pay attention to, because there's a lot of trolling, a lot of fake accounts that just like to get a little clickbait. But with that, hope you all enjoyed it. Springer back? I don't know. Springer I don't think Springer's back yet. Springer back.
Springer for Boston?
I'm like, wait a minute. Springer's not with Boston. You talking about Bregman?
Who's Springer? They have a Springer on Boston? Okay, someone help me out. I don't know who he's talking about.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Wow. I know he's getting an L for that one.
No, Bregman, I don't think is back yet.
No.
Just remember to hit that like button, hit that sub button if you want to join the chat. That's throwing me, that likes to throw me off once in a while. I can do that all by myself. Thank you very much. But also, make sure you share this out with your friends, your family, the strangers on the corner. So this is Pitch Chronicles. I'm Uncle Tats here at Rubino. Enjoy the games this weekend. Just remember to wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.
Go Yanks.